All right, thank you all for joining the call today. I'm really excited to talk about Cox's supplier diversity program and just Cox overall, and to get into a little bit about how to do business with us. So a little bit of the agenda today, we'll meet the team, of course, and then we'll talk a little bit about Cox's supplier diversity commitment, and a little bit about what supplier diversity means to us, as well as our goals and kind of the sourcing part of it, the meat of it, what you guys are here for today. So enterprise-wide sourcing and what we buy. So next slide. So yes, this is our team. We are responsible for developing and executing our supplier diversity strategy. We are a cross-divisional team, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And we maximize opportunities for all of our diverse suppliers to succeed at Cox. As Janine said, I have my director on the call, David Oram, who manages not only our diversity team, but our risk, as well as our magnet program, our MSP provider. David, I'll let you introduce yourself a little more though.
You hit the nail on the head. I just manage our supply chain enterprise programs that go across all of our entities. Hope drives both our third-party risk management programs, our supplier risk program, and our supplier diversity programs. So happy to be here and answer any questions.
Thank you, and I appreciate the support today. And then I have two other people on my team, Sinead Hall, who focuses on our Tier 2 program. We're really lucky to have a person on our team that strictly focuses on growing Tier 2 opportunities, as well as Wadrikas Walker, who focuses on our risk side, but also drives a lot of our programs on the supplier diversity side as well. Next slide. So I kind of know, and I kind of think that everybody knows what supplier diversity is, but I like to talk about it from kind of a Cox perspective. We definitely see this as a business strategy, and we like to maximize opportunities within the supply chain because we do believe it keeps us competitive. We do believe that it also enables us to have impact within our communities and the communities that we serve. And then we just honestly like to just kind of understand what our suppliers are doing and be able to impact them and grow them as well. So from our strategy, we definitely do the Tier 1 and Tier 2, which is Tier 1, we pay certified diverse owned businesses directly, as well as, like I spoke about, we have our, Tier 1, and then we have our Tier 2, where we do ask our non-diverse suppliers to report to us and use certified diverse suppliers when they're working on Cox projects as well. So I know this is kind of the industry standard, but wanted to kind of review that with you guys as well. Next slide. And then kind of what we consider as certified diverse in our program. We definitely have a lot of suppliers that come to us that are classified, meaning that they have self-identified and believe that they own 51% in all of those categories listed below. But for our program, we do expect for a supplier to be certified. And that is that a verified industry accepted independent third party has certified you and verified that you're 51% owned and managed and controlled by one of those categories listed below. But that does not mean we do not have the conversation. We absolutely have avenues and ways for our current suppliers to get certified, and we definitely support that in all the ways that we can. Next slide. And I really like to talk about Cox's journey in supplier diversity. We are a fairly old, but I say old but new, because a lot of companies are now just creating their supplier diversity programs. So there are some out there that date before ours, but just really having that legacy program in 2008 to understand what it is, what MBE and WBE spin is, and being able to just really understand and drive reporting around that. But really, our program became dynamic in around 2014 when we kind of reestablished it, and it became part of our sourcing group. And then and through the years, we've been able to grow the program, grow spend, kind of enhance reporting, enhance how we capture spend, things like that. And we started to become recognized within Diversity Inc., now Fair 360 for our program. But really in 2020 is where our supply chain started to become an enterprise-wide supply chain. So it's kind of a shared service group where we support all divisions of Cox. And I'll get into the divisions a little later. But our program started to grow. As you can see, the spend has grown tremendously, and we continue to kind of add different categories that we accept. We start to build out our Tier 2 program, and so I'm really proud of this journey. As and then we've had some amazing news just recently here of how we've grown our program. And next slide. So I just want to talk about a little bit around our commitments and our goals, so that you guys understand how our commitment flows every year. One, we set enterprise-wide goals for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 spend, and that really trickles down to stakeholders as well, specifically to our sourcing group. And so we understand kind of what way we're driving, how we're targeting, and what we're targeting, as well as we set outreach goals, engagement, hosting events, doing things like this webinar today, leading impact campaigns internally. And then we have a certification assistance program that I spoke about earlier for our current classified diverse suppliers. We sponsor a small business leadership academy. We have one in the San Diego market. It's a business accelerator class. It is a 9-week, 8 to 9 week course where we offer multiple scholarships to small and diverse owned businesses to help them grow, to help them understand what's the next steps in their business. So that's been something that we've been sponsoring now since 2015. And we've been able to invest about $500,000 into that program, which I think is awesome. We partner with the third-party certifying bodies to do sponsorship, matchmaking. We exhibit at conferences. So you may have met David or I at a conference before, and we continue to try to do that to engage our suppliers and meet new ones, as well as, meet the ones that we're working with as of today. And lastly, we are committed to grow our diverse owned businesses. We've committed to grow, to spend $1 billion with diverse suppliers by 2026. And we do meet with every diverse supplier who reaches out to our team. That's a commitment from the top down. So our SVP of supply chain really understands what it is to be, what it means to be seen and be heard, and have that conversation of whether or not, you fit with Cox's sourcing model, or we have a need for what you have. And just wanted to note here, it's kind of hot off the press a little bit, but we have reached our 1 billion this year. And so we're excited to be able to say that we've started enterprise-wide, not just Cox Communications, but Cox Enterprises, as well as Cox Automotive. We've been able to combine that, and through those efforts, reach that goal. So I'm excited about that. I know David is, and is proud of that. I'm proud too. Next slide. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about how we source at Cox. Like I spoke before, we do have an enterprise sourcing and procurement team. And I know a lot of people really think about Cox, and they think about Cox Communications. They think about the cable company, and they think about fiber and Cox Business. And we're a lot of things. So we're a little bit different than the other cable companies that you guys know. So we're a group of businesses. So we have Cox Enterprises, which is the family company that continues to grow and that are innovative and are getting into spaces like farming and sustainable farming. And we have Bright Farms is one of the businesses that we have acquired recently. And then also in Cox Automotive, which is the kind of the umbrella of around a lot of different brands. And some of those brands you might know, which is Kelley Blue Book, Auto Trader. Those are some things that I'm sure everybody's familiar with. So if you kind of are purchasing a car, you are gonna at some point touch a Cox brand within that, as well as Manheim, which is one of the largest auction houses, which is across the United States. So when you think about Cox and working with Cox, you know, you think a little bit broader. And if you've talked to us at any of the conferences, we probably walked you through that, because it's when you're looking for a Cox Communications and you walk up to our table and you see all these different things. We always get a lot of questions like, wow, Cox Automotive, what's that? So we love to talk about it and all the different ventures as well. But here's kind of for procurement methods. I really want the suppliers to understand is that we love to maximize those opportunities with enterprise sourcing. But we also understand for certain amounts of spend or business, there are competitive bids. So I know you guys are familiar with that. And like what we try to do is, if we know what's going on and we've had that conversation with you, you've had an intro call with us, and you've been in touch, you've made that relationship, we try to add you to those bids or make sure that your capabilities meet that. Anything below that though, we have the stakeholder really has the right to make that decision. And so we try to, as some of our initiatives, engagement, let our stakeholders know that that's really a driver of choosing suppliers, to make sure that you have a diverse base of suppliers when you go to choose. But really the final supplier selection, even if you know, we're having those conversations, it really comes down to one, the competitive rates, the amount of shared risk, and all those things that every supplier has to bring to the table. And so I like to say that we are complete advocates for you. We absolutely love to have those conversations. We absolutely like to take everything that you've shared with us and put it in this process. We love to share whether or not we have opportunities, and we love that suppliers that come ready with that information. And so we do this across all the business, and we hope once you get into that process, and if you're chosen, that you're able to maintain that business, and we help support you there as well. Next slide. So I know this is little, but I believe Janine is going to send a version of this this deck out. But I wanted to just talk about, as I said, we are not, you know, we're not just Cox Cable. We're a lot of different things. So as you can see, just some of the areas that we buy. One thing that I do know is that we have kind of a little bit of everything from outside plant construction and engineering to our wireless, to fleet, to maintenance, repair. Facilities is a really big area for us, because we do have a lot of properties around the US, as well as from an IT perspective, IT hardware, IT software. We do have Rapid Scale, which is another business under the Cox Communications, which is Cox Services type area. So we do a little bit of everything. And I always like to say is that I'm not a sourcing person in that sense, and I don't know everything we buy and what it is. But the best thing for me is to have the conversation with the supplier, so that I make sense when I go back to these professionals and say, okay, this is what this supplier is doing. So as you can see, I have a lot of things to become a master of, which I'm not a master of any of these, I don't think. So, but yeah, so if you see this list and there's something on here that you know that, or you have more questions, definitely we'll have time at the end for questions, but also our information will be at the end for any for email contact and things like that. You can send us and set up intro calls. So next slide.
Well, and to add on to this really quickly, like, and Hope touched on this a little bit, our sourcing team really leverages us for recommendations. One of our goals is to include a diverse supplier in any RFP that goes out. So if you're registered in our supplier portal, that's one of the first places we go to look, right? Is who is already registered, who have we had conversations with, who can we immediately go and say, hey, here's 4 companies for outside plant construction, here's 4 companies for facility, or whatever it may be, so that they can be included in those RFPs. And so that's why it's really important for when you do reach out that you do kind of fill out that profile. And we use Supplier IO, and Hope will probably give you more information on that as well. But that's really the direct contact we have, is that, as she said, is we are the influencers, right? We're that first step and foot in the door to kind of our sourcing team and our business stakeholders.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, David. And I will say, I know a lot of people, as soon as he said supplier IO, we do not treat it as the black hole that some people call it, those type of, that kind of registering. We actually use that tool. It's a really great tool for us to create those lists, for us to create, to get email information, to be able to send out, because you saw how small the team is. It's a small but mighty team, but to be able to contact everyone when there's an opportunity, we really, really utilize that tool. So registering that tool for us is super important. So thank you, David. Just wanted to talk a little bit about our certification assistance program. And this is right now specifically for Cox suppliers that are classified, the program itself, but the information that we're willing to give is to all of anyone who feels like they qualify as a diverse supplier. And I'm sure there are a lot of other areas. In Founders First definitely is a good place to start to ask those questions. But for us, what we really provide, because we know that getting certified can be a bit daunting. So what Cox has committed to, and they've committed to over doing this, honestly, working with a diverse company. One, we coach, we help. We help you get plugged in. We help you get plugged into the right places and making sure that you're getting the right certification for you. Answering any questions, kind of why get certified. The education around it, again, just the industry itself can sometimes be hard to navigate. But we also make key connections. We and a lot of corporates, we are really large partners with some of these certifying agencies. And so that's one of the things we lean on them for, is to help us help our suppliers. And so we continue to do that through that connection part of this program. And then there is a part of this program where we we don't pay for the certification, but we pay for the help of getting certified, collecting the documentation. And we use a certified supplier to help our suppliers do that as well. So that's really and that actually for us, that's really investing in our suppliers. We see long-term growth. We see them in our supply chain for a while. And so through this program, we continue to support them and build them up, as well as being able to count their spend. And I always say, it's not about, when it comes to getting certified, it's not about, who you are, but it's really validating the ownership of the business. Is the business really owned? And so really for our corporations, that's how we move the needle. Numbers move the needle. So we're able to count you as a veteran-owned supplier. That's a way that we can track growth, and then be able to go back and verify that that business is actually owned by a veteran. And so I always get that question, why get certified? It actually, in the bigger picture, moves the supplier diversity needle from corporate all the way just nationally. So that's kind of my thoughts around it. Next slide. And then if any of you, this is pretty much open to suppliers that are within our markets. And like I said, we have a market in the San Diego area. And we have a small business leadership academy, but this is also an accelerator program, a business accelerator. We call it our mini MBA program. It's an 8 to 10 week program. It's tailored to the needs of small businesses, diverse businesses. And again, small and diverse businesses are something that we're trying to grow within our supply chain. We ask for some, and these things are changing as kind of the world is changing. So these numbers and these qualifications might have changed. So please reach out to us. We're getting ready to review and start cohorts for 2024 if you're interested. We've graduated more than 175. I don't think I updated this slide since all the 2023 numbers have started to roll in. But Cox has really invested, like I said, almost $500,000 into this program in the last, since 2015. So graduating so many businesses that are able to grow and able to maximize, from some of these courses. We partner with universities who then find some great professors to teach some of these business courses. So just really, really love this program. It's something that leadership of our company is really excited about and has supported over the years. And David, I don't know if you have any thoughts around or our Small Business Leadership Academy. And David leads up our kind of fuel innovation pillar around our ID&E group. So this is near and dear to him as well.
This is one of the programs we're trying to actively grow. Currently, we have it in five of our markets. So if you're not in the California area and you're interested, please still feel free to reach out. It's one of these that we absolutely love simply because of the impact that it has with small businesses, right? And it's tailored to the region. So we have kind of a general framework that we give to the universities, and we let our regional leaders and the university representatives really tailor to that market kind of the curriculum of what they want to teach and how they teach it. And often it's based on, okay, well, these are the type of small businesses that came in that applied. And so it's a wonderful program. So please feel free to, apply. I can't speak enough volume for it.
Yeah, and it's completely free. I don't think I said that first. It's a free, you get a scholarship from Cox to attend. So, yep, thank you. Next slide. All right, so coming a little bit to the end or before questions, we will share this out to the group, but we have a team mailbox, and here's why this team mailbox is so special. You'll get a response immediately and kind of an out of office, and it'll have a link to book time with the group. We set aside a week every month exclusively for our diversifiers to do introduction calls to meet. As David said earlier, we are the conduit. We are your advocates. But we need to know who you are, and we need to be able to create that relationship. You need to register within our portal and create that relationship with us. But here's our emails as well. You can reach out again. Why really runs our, I call him why Drika's Walker runs our certification assistance. So any questions there, you can reach out. Sinead is our tier 2. We definitely have a heavy tier 2 program. So if you feel like the size of your business may or may not be ready for Cox, and I didn't go deeper into the sourcing and enterprise sourcing area, but insurance wise, contractual things that you have to be able to attest to do business. If you haven't met those, or you don't think you will because you are a small business, tier 2 might be the way to go. And so Sinead will be able to help kind of connect you there. And then, of course, David and I are always open just to answer general questions around Small Business Leadership Academy, or just generally just if you want to understand a little bit more about Cox. So I really appreciate this forum and able to talk a little bit more about Cox, and I'm ready for questions if anyone has any questions.
Okay, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. And if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. As I mentioned previously, we had a number of questions to come in, so we'll get to some of those. We do have folks joining us from all over the country. So those programs that you have in your 5 regions, I'm sure we'll have some folks really interested there. So the first question that I have for you is, what are the steps for becoming certified? I know you mentioned you've got some certification assistance programs. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think a little bit around the steps that we've been able to isolate through that CAP program. I think that's one of the great things about that program, is that we've honestly had to learn how do you get certified through all of these different agencies. And so the first thing I would say, if you're not certified, one, isolate the areas or categories or designations that you would fall in, minority, women. And then I would go for one of the larger certification bodies because those are accepted throughout kind of all big corporations. The next step is I would get my paperwork together. I always say make sure that you own 51% of your company. That is very, very important. If you are a sole proprietor, or if you have an LLC and you have a corporation, they're going to ask you for different documentation. So make sure that you go on that particular industry site, like, NMSDC or your local NMSDC, WeBank, and you pull down the documentation list. They have it out there for you. So I would do that. And then the other thing that I would say is make sure you have all of your tax information, your recent tax information. They're going to ask you for that, which leads me to kind of the one thing that I always say, brace yourself, because that list is very long and it can feel invasive. But that also goes back to what I said around kind of being able to validate your business to ultimately move the larger needle. It helps you get in the door, it helps you have the conversation, it helps you have advocates like us. But at the end of the day, like, it really helps us understand how are we actually pushing forward in this initiative of supplier diversity. So, but yeah, that's kind of my take. We get a lot of questions on, I didn't know they were going to ask for my birth certificate and my parents' death certificate or my parents' marriage certificate or my, or make me validate that I am, Native American or African American, but they will. And so, I suggest that that's kind of where you start.
Great. Is the certification assistance available to any US-based business or only where you have presence?
For us, our certification assistance really focuses around our current suppliers who are classified and not certified. So they classify themselves, they self-identified as diverse, and they're 51% owned. But there are tons of certification assistance programs out there. So you might just want to kind of take a look around your local area, maybe your local government, the Secretary of State kind of office always has a supplier diversity aspect of it, and they can help you there. But for us, Cox's program is specific to classified, but I did say earlier is that we're willing to, like the information that I just shared around documentation, we're always willing to share with any supplier that feels like that they are classified but not yet certified, and they want, and have questions, where we love to answer those. But the actual assistance from a financial standpoint and support gathering documentation, that's only for the suppliers that we're currently do business with.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I've got another question here. From our experience with other large corporate procurement offices, there are several layers of due diligence from their end, typically 4 to 6 layers of screening before doing business. How many layers of due diligence at Cox typically? And how can suppliers prepare in advance? Which I feel like you just mentioned some things, but go ahead.
Yeah, I know David wants to jump in because we get this question all the time. One, as you guys saw, we have so many different sizes of business, right? So if you may be doing promotional items and a stakeholder will say, okay, what did they put together? Oh, great, today. But if you're doing a project like outside plant construction or construction period, we have a process, we have different markets, we have, MCAs that you have to sign, and stakeholders within those different markets have to approve you. And if they approve you, there's a time in which we're actually looking for new construction suppliers. And then from there, you have to, understand the rate card. And then from IT perspective, say we're doing hardware, software, those projects could go 3 to 4 years. So they're really, really scrutinizing that RFP and making sure that your pricing is going to stay within this, frame or whatever. I'm not an expert in all of those different areas, but I've seen it happen. So to answer that question, it depends. But there are layers, and just like with any company, you're going to have a few layers to go through. But if you get through the layers, from a supplier diversity standpoint, we're here to continue. We want to see you grow. So we want to see you stay in the supply chain. So the layers for us actually make sense. And we want to make sure that you're successful. We're not throwing you in the lion's den and you can't, perform in what you said. And so, or vice versa, like we're not doing the things that, you expected. So, but absolutely, it depends. It depends on the line of business. It depends on the timing. It depends on the money, all of that, the budget. So, David, do you have anything to jump onto that?
No, I mean, you answered it pretty much the same as I would, and I'm trying to answer the chats as well as we see them. So, but it really is dependent on need, right? A lot of it is what when the sourcing team comes to us, or the business stakeholders will reach out to us directly. So it's hard to say at any given time what demand will be. And then there's the I won't call it the fight, but the back and forth of, hey, we have established suppliers already in the network, they want to use those. Well, if it's an RFP, we want to make sure we're including other people. I mean, and I'm answering Percy right now. I believe you asked what are some of the primary services that Cox needs at this time. One of those is outside plant construction. That's one of the biggest areas that we have for growth right now, especially with some of the like the BEAD funding that we're getting, where there are requirements for utilization of small and diverse businesses.
And Dave,
Yeah.
can you just repeat that? You said there was a question that came in around a need, a current need right now.
Yes. Sorry,
Okay.
I was looking in the webinar chat.
It's doing good. Thank you. I do want to jump on that a little bit around outside plant construction, because I'll get a lot of conversation or questions around that. This is a big space for us, but also, keep in mind, there are a lot of licenses that you have to have that Cox requires. One thing that I did note today is that we require a $10 million umbrella insurance policy for any of those construction suppliers working on projects. And so where we try to focus is, if you're a construction company and you feel like you could be in any of our markets, again, those decisions come down after we kind of go through that process with you. It comes down to those particular managers in that market. But if you can't meet that criteria, we like to work from a subcontractor tier 2 perspective for you. So we like to give you or connect you with some of those larger, and we push our larger non-diverse suppliers to work with diverse owned suppliers on any of Cox's projects, whether that's construction or IT or professional, whatever it is. We really do try to push that. We have that in our contract language with our non-diverse suppliers. And we try to encourage them to be faithful to those terms and that. So, but just wanted to put that out there. I know there's a lot of questions around that all the time. And so we understand that we have high requirements, and there are a lot of high requirements in that space from a lot of companies, but we like to, if you can't work with tier 2, you're not just counted out in that sense.
You keep answering all of the questions I'm going to ask. So my next question was around subcontracting in tier 2 and how you work with them, and what additional support you can provide to them, and are there opportunities to make introductions to some of the tier 1s, and how all that works.
I would just give my experience in this. I've been with Cox, which I didn't talk about, 10 years. So I've been with Cox 3 years, and I've been managing this program 1.5 years. And I will say that I really absolutely love working for Cox, because they really truly believe in this initiative, and they really support it all the way to putting that tier 2 language and being serious about it. And our senior managers within sourcing, they are very serious about it. We follow up with these companies and we hold them to the fire. So within that time, though, I will say I have a lot of diversifiers that meet with me and they want to be tier 1 immediately. I get that a lot. What space I don't get that a lot in is the IT hardware software space, because they understand network looks like. I get a lot of suppliers that have never heard of tier 2. And so I think for me, having an initial conversation with the strategy of, okay, now I've about Cox, now I've understood how big they are, how small they are, or whatever, or how I can work. what's my strategy? It's obviously not tier one because I don't have $10 million umbrella insurance. Come in with a strategy to say, this is how I've worked with subcontractors in the past, or how do you set people up, or just to have that conversation. I think that would be super helpful, because it is not easy to tell a corporation or a contractor or any supplier to say, you have to use this supplier. They are their own business. And they are their own, they have their own shop. And so for us, we're not only making the argument that you have to stand true to the terms that you sign, but now we have suppliers that we want you to use. So it's very, very helpful for me that you come in with that strategy when we start to have the introduction call, and then we start to have the conversation around action steps and next steps. And so that's kind of my thoughts around it. I know everybody kind of understands how subcontracting works, but for us, we're kind of like cold calling like you, how do we get you plugged in? I like to work together with my diverse suppliers in that sense.
Very good, very good. So we had several questions that were very specific in terms of the services and the products that you all procure. And you did share that slide, which we will be sending out at the end of the webinar. But I do like to always ask, what is my next step? If I'm a certified supplier, I want to work with Cox, what is my next step? Is it the team Calendly link? I'll just let you speak to that. What is my next step?
Yeah, I think first step, connect with us through that link. We use Microsoft Bookings. Shout out to Microsoft. And have the conversation with us. Within that call, I've had my team structure the call in a way that we have an action plan. We come in, we try to understand as much as we can, like in any business, there are silos. So we don't always know what's coming down the pipeline. But if we have a really thoughtful call, we walk through capabilities and we set up an action plan and next steps. Like an action plan would be, if I don't have any leads for you, I have no idea what your line of business is within us, I don't even know who we're using currently, right? So the next step would be, hey, I'm going to go back to the business and ask, do we have a supplier currently meeting these needs? And are we looking to open this up to business at any point? Then I ask the supplier to reach back out to me within a month, and I can, give you that answer. Hey, let's reconnect. Let's start that conversation. Let's, make that relationship. The answer may be yes, we're opening up for bid in 2 months, get ready. Or it may be, we have a supplier, we have a 10-year agreement with them. So, as much as I would like to give you this business or, or work with you on the bid, it's just not going to be possible until 2028 or whatever. All right. So that's an action plan. Sometimes we have immediate openings where I'm like, oh, I just heard that today. We're lucky enough to be embedded within our supply chain sourcing next to our sourcing group. We're very lucky. That's not always the case when you talk about supplier diversity. So we always have our ears to the ground. David is very involved in a lot of different areas. So he understands what's coming down the pipeline. So if I do hear something, I may be able to have immediate next steps. And then we set that action plan to hey, let's follow up next week. I'll connect you with a sourcing manager. We have that conversation. We have absolutely had that happen. We've had that happen while I've worked in this role. We had them go from an intro call to an RFP to a bid win to last year. We actually had a networking event with this company to help them grow. And it really does happen like that. So I will just say, if you get off our call and you don't have an action plan with us, then it didn't go right. And call my team out too to say, what's the next steps? And can we create something together to start a relationship here?
And I'll piggyback on that too as well. Like, Hope talked about kind of the booking link and reaching out to the diversity inbox, but make sure you're also registering on the portal. That's key as well, right? Because even if we have that intro call and something doesn't come in 2, 3, 6 months, we have your information, right? And we know what your capabilities are. And then when something does come through and we're asked, and I'm looking, Melissa, I see your question as a CPG snack company. Hope gave a good example. We probably, I don't know right now at the top of my head who we use, right? And we would need to investigate that, see if there is any opportunity to talk to our sourcing counterparts. But it's really that making sure that you're registering on the portal, and then also emailing the diversity inbox and scheduling time with us to really build out that plan.
Yeah, no, thank you for double downing on that, because that's very important for one particular category, which is our staff hall. That is the way I'm using that. It's everyone knows how that works. We do have a MSP provider. We are not in control of that at this point. That's with our talent acquisition team. But what I have, and I think I've gotten a lot of good feedback around this, is to say, please register in our portal. When this happens, and I really add people that I've had the conversations with, I vetted their capabilities, I add them to this list, I can easily export it and email and say, hey, it's time, guys, let's go get together, let's, and prepare. If you're not in the portal and you haven't registered and we haven't had a conversation with you, then at the end of the day, it's kind of out of our hands. So I definitely, thank you, David, for double downing on that, because it's been a vital part of how we connect with our suppliers and how we find new suppliers as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think we've addressed the vast majority of the questions we've received. Like I said, there were a lot of very specific ones. And it sounds like we know our marching orders. We will email that team mailbox. We will make sure we get registered on that portal. I do want to congratulate you on reaching your $1 billion spend goals 2 years ahead of time, or I guess technically 3 years ahead. So congratulations to that. Like I said, your all commitment to supplier diversity is really unparalleled. And we're just so glad to have had you both here today to join us and to educate our network on how to do business with Cox successfully. So thank you again. Thank you, Hope. Thank you, David. And thank you, everyone who attended today's session. We will be sending out a link to the video recording, as well as some of that key information in the email to make it really simple for you to get in touch with Cox. So everyone, enjoy your day, and thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine.
Bye-bye.